Say, hey, Gus. There's Gus. Come on, Gus, come on. I wanted to talk for a few minutes about what I believe to be a major misconception about Jesus, or should I say the character of Jesus. I think, we'll put it like this. Or think about this. Who's the funniest person that you know? The funniest person, whether it's a celebrity or a friend of yours or a relative or anything like that. Think about the funniest person you know, and I guarantee you that Jesus was funnier than that person. You might say that sounds strange or look confused or whatever, but how often or how many times has a group of people been in a funeral home or at a hospital or something like that during a really what should be a serious situation, and someone cracks a joke that's in the moment, just timed just right, and how it lifts everyone's spirits. Laughter, the best medicine is. So they say, "Come on, Gus, Gus, come on." Sorry, but yeah, I think Jesus was absolutely hilarious, and he wouldn't have had to be dirty or anything like that. Just a all-around good-natured person. When you think of joy, when it comes Christmas time, we celebrate the birth of Jesus. They say and speak of peace and joy, this and that. I believe that too many self-proclaimed Christians seem to take too solemn of a stance, or think that he was either serious or always just solemn, making his prayers and this and that. But I think he was a very funny person, whom because that's the best. I mean, there's no other better way to allow for peace, especially during difficult times, than some, good humor. And I think Jesus, he would have been hilarious. Here's another. Think about this. These preachers, you see, that are Christians, in particular preachers. I like this, so that call themselves Christ-like. Let's compare them with Jesus for a minute. If Jesus were to start a job, you have to bear with my speaking sometimes, is has sometimes trouble, but it's all good. If Jesus were to start a job at a factory, and on his first day during the lunch break, do you think that he would immediately announce to everyone, hey, I'm, Jesus, I'm a preacher, I'm this and that, and start telling people there, oh, you're going to hell, and, in the general way that preachers do? With that thought in mind, let's think about like a general, like your Baptist preacher, or your average deacon, or whatever. Let's say that they start a job. Come on, Gus, come on. At a factory or something. How many of them, how long could they go on that job after beginning without announcing to everyone what they are? Oh, I'm a deacon at this church. I'm a preacher at that church. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but imagine this. What if they went for a month doing nothing but just being friendly to people, not telling anybody they're going to hell, not carrying their Bible around and beating it over everybody's head, but leaving that somewhat of a mystery? Because when you announce immediately that, I'm a preacher or I'm a Christian, there's going to be people there that's going to be looking to pick apart what you're saying. It's going to immediately influence the way that others look at you. If you spend 30 days on that job, working hard and being the nicest guy there, and just, anytime there's a somewhat of a disruption between two people, you're the peacemaker, this and that. A month later, if the question arises or what have you, you mention, oh, I'm a Christian, or oh, I'm a preacher at this or that church. I guarantee you that that's going to hit a lot harder than going in there and announcing it right off the rip. Does that not make sense? What is it about these Christian folk that make, it's no different than an atheist. Someone's, oh, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in this and that. And then, the Christians, oh, I believe in that and this. Furthermore, how many of these preachers could go, they say, they're out to save people's souls and this and that. And to each his own. Everybody has their, I'm not saying everybody's like this. I want to point out the hypocrisy that's just too blatant for me to ignore anymore. How many preachers could go into a bar room go up to the bar, sit down and order a beer for that matter, or a cranberry juice, and mingle with the people that's there. How long could that preacher do that before his head explodes because he's wanting to tell them that they're going to hell and what they're doing is wrong, this and that? Let's go back to and think about Jesus. Jesus hang out with the sinners, it says in the Bible. If while he was hanging out with those sinners, he was constantly saying, hey, I'm right, this and that, you're going to hell doing wrong, he wouldn't have hung out with those sinners. They wouldn't have had him around very long. Certainly not long enough for the people on the outside to see him hanging out with them. There's a way, it's a pride thing. I just feel like talking, I brought Gus up here. Yeah, he said hey to Gus about these things that I've noticed that are just so backwards and absurd. The Bible, I think, is a very interesting book. There's a lot of interesting material in it, but I believe if you're going to use it to to judge, if you're going to use it in a negative way, or should I say in a way that's in a self-exalting way, I think you would be far better off to burn it. Definitely. And I'm not saying go out and burn Bibles, but if anybody who's incapable of leveling with people, I just I just get fascinated by the character of Jesus and how misconstrued it is. And I happen to live in an area, the Bible Belt, and know lots of people whom wouldn't even approach the door of a bar room, or furthermore, like, let's say, a drug house or something like that. Could you go in there and sit down amongst them without telling them that? Because if you go, you're going to witness to people, let's say you're a Christian and not Christ himself. You go into a bar or go into a house where there's lots of, drugs being used, this and that. If the only thing you've got to say to them is, hey, what you're doing is wrong, or this and that, there's two things going on. For one, you're telling them I'm right and you're wrong. And two, you're telling them something they know already. But if you go in there and sit with them, they go to pass you the pipe, say, no, thanks, I'm good. It's all about in the moment how you handle things. But I didn't feel as though I need to talk about this stuff. I talk about it with Gus plenty enough, so I thought I would share it with a digital world or whatever. It just fascinates me to no end how that these people do. I have I'm not going to let's mention that in another video. But yeah, it's something to think about. I think Jesus would have been absolutely hilarious. Think of the fun, there's no way that he couldn't have been. And with that being said, that would overwrite a lot of the solemnness, and all this division that goes on. People talk Christian and Buddhist and atheist and this and that. You all believe in something. Atheist believes that there is no God. That's what they believe. Normally, atheists have had an incident happen earlier in their life, which has made them mad because something didn't go their way, loss of a loved one or something, not to make light of it. But, if Jesus was walking through the forest here, let's go this way, Gus, come on. Walking down a trail and seeing someone that you would find in normal Buddhist text, just sitting there silently, meditating, just being at peace or whatever, you think Jesus would stop and say, do you know Jesus Christ, because you're going to hell? No, Jesus would probably smile at him, nod, and they'd wink at each other, and he'd keep walking. I guarantee you that's what would happen. But that's just my opinion, And the last thing I want to touch on is I've been homeless before, and there's not a drug I've not been strung out on. I've stolen. I've been a bad boy in the past, should I say. I've been clean for a significant amount of time now, and I've noticed a lot of things from being in different walks of life. But one thing I've noticed, the preacher man, I got to touch on these people that call themselves Christ-like. If they, approach someone on the street, they'll take the preacher or Christian or whoever, look them up and down and think, oh, this guy looks dirty, or I don't think he's saved. And they'll say, do you know Jesus Christ, and have you accepted him as your Lord and Savior? Whatever saying that they got that they bring to them, but they're not used to hearing the person respond with a yes. And if the homeless person, normally says yes, it seems like in the mind of the Christian, they're like, well, he's homeless. How could he be, and I see an empty bottle laying over there. That could be his. They ask him again, And it's very off-putting because during my time when I was basically living on the streets, I had just a couple of incidents where someone would come up and ask me that, and I'd be reading my Bible and say, look, I'm yes, and this and that. And then they would like ask the question in another way. Well, are you sure? Well, this and that. And anything after that moment that they say falls under judging, because you never know who you're talking to and what they're dealing with. But oh, I could go on and on about these Christians. It's just things I like to talk about, and I decided I want to start putting it on this YouTube platform. But yeah, any like Christian that goes up to a homeless person, I know they probably don't get that answer often, and I know there's a lot of crazy people on the streets. But the judgmental part is something that just irks me, man, because there's so many other things. Just like I was saying about if you start a job, there's so many other requirements, in my opinion, for someone to think you're a Christian than just saying, "Oh, I've been preaching at this church 30 years or whatever." There's so many things, but that can't be conveyed in words. You have to be around someone for a little while, and it's. I get carrying on about this stuff. I think it's if there was a problem on this earth today, I think that's the division amongst us. Good boy. It just fascinates me, and to know it, because if you really think about it, think of one preacher. How long could a man of God, in air quotes, go into a known drug house, and then they may start making it sure, well, you never know, it might get raided, this and that, and be like, well, that's much more important than their souls, isn't it, pastor? How long could they sit in there without just saying, telling everybody what they're doing wrong? You never know what somebody's going through. And like I mentioned at a bar, if a preacher goes to a bar, most of them won't set foot near one, and they're all about, oh goodness, bear with me. Goodness gracious. It's fascinating to me. I'll say this last little subject matter and let it go. Here, I'll put it like this. I heard someone here, it's been a couple of weeks ago, he was loading up some firewood. I sell firewood from time to time, and he is talking to someone else that I know. There was three of us out there. There was the gentleman buying and loading the wood, then there's the me, and then the other person. Well, the other person happens to be a preacher, call him this and that, and was mentioning something about he had something stolen from him, and whether he did or not, that's a perfectly legitimate complaint. But the preacher's talking to this guy buying the wood, and the guy buying the wood says, well, that's something right there I won't have nothing to do with. That's somebody with sticky fingers. I don't have nothing to do with that and stuff. And I got to thinking, I was like, what would Jesus think about that? Because dude's obviously, he said he went to church, and then the third person I know to be a self-proclaimed preacher, and they just, satisfied, like, oh yeah, and I was like, what would Jesus think about that? If and furthermore, because he come to those who are, I forget how it says it, bear with me, those who are sick don't need a physician type speech, but I mean, that's the people that Jesus come to help, is the people that are wayward. And I used to be a massive thief. I embezzle. There ain't nothing I've not done to supply my former drug habit. So I can understand. And amongst the things that I haven't done is stealing from people like my family. When you hear two people talking like the two people I'm speaking of, here, let's go around one more time, yes, come on. And they start to, if they were actually concerned about the soul of the person, as they say, they wouldn't be talking with such satisfaction about how, I can't believe how such and such took it from his own uncle, or he stole that from his own daddy, this and that. Never once have I heard during any of those conversations, especially Christians that talk like that, before or after church, how the person that done the stealing or whatever feels about that. They obviously have a problem that is so massive in their life and runs their life to where the shame that you feel from taking from someone like that, and you do that because you think you can get away with it. It's your family. I can tell you all about that shit, man. But it's like this. If you give, if you walk up to a couple, and I'll never not give them hell, these preachers, boy, Christ like my ass. You go up to them and say, okay, you've got a choice. You lost a $200 chainsaw, or you are forever known as the person who stole something from your relative. And nobody's really wanting to help you. They act nice to your face, but when they're amongst their brethren and stuff, they talk about, I just don't see how he can do something like that to his family. And that's what I would like to speak up for, is especially people like that, because I know there's bad people out there. There's always hope for everybody, and some people are just stupid and can't be helped. I know a lot of them too. But when the general consensus is, said if you got a choice, you can be that person who is so bound by that addiction or whatever that you take from your family, or you can be the person who is fairly comfortable and well off, and now you're missing a $200 item that you can easily replace. It's like those two options. If anybody can grasp what I'm saying, I would be thankful to be on the one side, because I've been on both of them. I can't say nothing about nothing. I can't judge nobody for nothing, man. I know what it's like to be on substances, in particular opiates, for years and years, and actually feel on my deepest inside, not ever consider what it would be like to not be on them. I know what it's like to be bound by that crap. I know what it's like for the people, especially the ones, this is what I'm getting at, that claim to be Christ-like, the Christians, the preachers. They just, they're in it for something else. I don't know what exactly, called ego and stuff, but it most certainly isn't for the way that I believe that Jesus would have went about things, and so just to hear a reverend or whatever go back and forth with another guy, and for like the two gentlemen I was talking about earlier, one of them said, I won't have nothing to do with somebody with sticky fingers, and then the reverend's just like, yeah, all puffed up and everything. It's like, if you guys actually believed in the heaven and hell that you bark and carry on about, on the weekends and stuff, then you would have a different attitude. You wouldn't just be so easy to slander that person. Oh, he's just on that dope, he's just this and that, without either knowing what it's like or trying to actually help. And again, I know there's people you can't help, but the lack of attempt to help, like if the group of people go into a restaurant after church, and there's a bar in that restaurant, and the people at the church, everybody looks, oh man, he's drinking them booze. You never know what that person at that bar is going through. How many, air quotes, Christians will be able to go up and go about 2 stools over and just sit. And I say, order a beer, non-alcoholic or alcoholic. Order a cranberry juice, don't matter. Talk to that person without walking up with a immediate, well, I'm right and you're wrong. Let me tell you how I'm right and you're wrong. Basically, because anytime, like when the Mormons come to visit, I'll talk about that in a different video. Said they're nice people and stuff, but the actual, you never know what somebody's going through. And yes, again, I'll say it, there's people that are hopeless cases or whatever, but unless you attempt to wade through these people, you're never going to find the people who there might be actually hope for, who might need someone to just talk to about actual life things, instead of like I mentioned earlier, the witness on the street corner who goes up to the homeless guy and asks him if he knows Jesus, and the guy says yeah, and then he's like, well, you sure? Because I'm looking at you and I'm judging that you don't. If the preacher could knock that shit off, sit down beside him, or just take him something to eat without having the agenda of trying to recruit him to his specific beliefs, because we're all humans. We all got 10 fingers and 2 legs and this and that, and people just go past that. Like I could go on and on and on. Like even homosexuals, but to each his own. I'm not going to tell anybody their own. But if go back to what I mentioned about the deacon or the pastor that starts work at a factory, and before lunchtime comes, he finds out that someone's gay there, and he feels it's his obligation to go and tell that man or that woman or whatever that that's wrong, the Bible's against it, this and that. All they do is, boom, immediately put a blockade between, because the person hearing that hears, I'm right and you're wrong, coming from the preacher man, what have you. I could carry on and on, but I hope you guys enjoy this video. I've got a few people that I watch on YouTube that really encourage me, and it's almost like having friends, and that's what partially what inspired me and what's going on in the world today. I think there's yeah, I believe that's it for right now. Thanks everybody. Say bye, Gus. There's Gus. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.